A little girl stood at the grocery counter, her tiny hands trembling. She didn't have enough money. But when a kind store worker paid for her groceries, he had no idea. Her mother, a secret millionaire, was watching from the corner. What happens next will leave you speechless. Before we continue, tell us where in the world are you watching this from? We love seeing our family from every corner of the globe in the comments. The grocery store was unusually busy that rainy afternoon. The automatic doors slid open and shut in a rhythm, letting in the cool air that smelled faintly of wet asphalt. Inside, people bustled about, mothers with toddlers, elderly couples, moving slowly with their carts, and workers in uniforms grabbing quick snacks before their shifts. In aisle 7, a little girl stood on her tiptoes, clutching a small wire basket with both hands. Her blonde hair was damp from the drizzle outside, and her pink raincoat dripped water onto the floor. Her wide blue eyes flicked nervously between the items in her basket and the coins. She gripped tightly in her tiny fist. Bread, milk, a single chocolate bar. Emma Reynolds, 7 years old, took a deep breath. "Mom said I could do this," she whispered to herself. It was supposed to be her first big girl errand. Her mother, Claire, had sent her in with just enough cash for the few items. But somewhere between the car and the store, Emma had tripped on the curb. The coins had scattered, and though she managed to pick most of them up, she couldn't find 2 of them. Now she stood at the checkout counter, her cheeks flushed with worry. The cashier scanned the items and looked at her expectantly. "That'll be $6.25, sweetie." Emma placed her crumpled bills and coins on the counter. The cashier counted, then shook her head gently. "You're short by $1. The line behind Emma shuffled impatiently. A man sighed loudly. Someone muttered, "Why don't parents teach their kids better?" Emma's hands trembled. But I need these," Mommy said. Her voice cracked as tears threatened to spill. Before the cashier could respond, a deep, warm voice cut through the tension. "Hey, it's okay. I've got this." Emma turned to see a tall young man in a dark green store apron. He had kind brown eyes that crinkled when he smiled, and a name tag that read Marcus. In one hand, he held a broom. In the other, his wallet. "You don't need to cry," Marcus said softly, kneeling down so he was eye level with her. "We all have tough days, don't we? Let me help." Emma sniffled. But Mommy said I shouldn't talk to strangers." Marcus chuckled gently. "Your mom's right. You're a smart girl. But I'm not just anyone. I work here. See?" He pointed to his name tag. "Marcus, and I just want to help because someone helped me once too." Before Emma could protest, Marcus handed $1 to the cashier. "She can keep the change for her piggy bank." The cashier smiled, clearly relieved to resolve the situation. "That's very kind of you." Emma looked down at the chocolate bar in her basket. "But the candy." "Maybe I can put it back so you don't have to." Marcus shook his head. "Nope. Every big girl needs chocolate on her first shopping trip. That's the rule." For the first time since entering the store, Emma giggled. "Thank you, Marcus," she said softly, her voice full of awe. "You're the nicest person I've ever met," Marcus grinned. "Well, I think you're the bravest little shopper I've ever met. Deal?" "Deal." She carefully picked up her grocery bag and skipped toward the automatic doors, turning back one last time to wave. "I'll tell Mommy about you." Marcus waved back before returning to his broom. He didn't know why, but that tiny interaction made his day feel a little brighter. Across the store, behind a tall rack of cereal boxes, Claire Reynolds had been watching the entire exchange. She hadn't meant to spy. At first, she just wanted to make sure Emma was safe on her first solo errand. But when she saw her daughter struggling, her protective instincts almost pushed her to step in. Then she saw him, the young store worker with kind eyes. The way he knelt to speak to Emma gently, with no hint of judgment or annoyance. The way he paid for her groceries without hesitation, even though she could tell from his slightly worn sneakers and tired face that he wasn't someone with a lot to spare. Something about Marcus struck Claire deeply. As CEO of one of the country's top tech firms, Claire had seen countless people fake kindness to impress her or get ahead. But this man, he didn't even know who she was. Claire stood frozen as Emma ran back to her, beaming. "Mommy! Mommy, a nice man paid for my groceries. His name is Marcus, and he works here." Claire crouched to hug her daughter tightly, her throat tight with emotion. That was very sweet of him. "Can we say thank you?" Emma asked eagerly. Claire hesitated. Something told her not to approach Marcus right now, not yet. She wanted to know more about this kind stranger first. "Not today, honey," Claire said gently. "But I promise we will." As Claire led Emma out into the rain, she stole one last glance through the store window. There was Marcus, sweeping the floor with quiet diligence, completely unaware that his small act of kindness had just been witnessed by someone with the power to change his life forever. The rain had stopped by the time Marcus left the grocery store that evening, but the clouds overhead still hung low and heavy, as if mirroring the weight he carried on his shoulders. He tightened the thin jacket around his frame and walked briskly down the cracked sidewalk. The neighborhood wasn't dangerous, but it wasn't the kind of place where you'd want to linger either. Streetlights flickered overhead, and the scent of fried food drifted from a corner takeout shop. Marcus glanced at his phone, 2 missed calls from his sister Jasmine. He quickened his pace. Jasmine was waiting at the apartment door when he arrived. She was 16, her hair tied back in a messy bun, and her textbooks sprawled across the small dining table behind her. "Marcus, you're late again," she said, her voice tinged with worry. "Did you eat?" He smiled wearily, ruffling her hair as he stepped inside. "Nope, but don't worry, I grabbed some instant noodles from the store." Jasmine frowned. "You need real food. You're working yourself to death." Marcus sat down heavily on the threadbare couch. "I'll survive. Besides, your big brother has to make sure you finish high school and become the world's best nurse, remember?" Her eyes softened, but she didn't smile. She knew the sacrifices he made, working 2 jobs, skipping meals, patching up old sneakers instead of buying new ones. He never complained, never asked for help, but Jasmine saw through his brave face. Across town, in a very different world, Claire Reynolds sat in her sleek penthouse apartment, staring out at the city lights. Her mind kept replaying the scene. At the grocery store, Marcus, there had been no hesitation in his actions, no expectation of reward. Just pure kindness. As CEO of Reynolds Innovations, Claire had met countless people chasing power, status, and wealth. Rarely did she see someone like Marcus, a man who clearly had little but gave anyway. She reached for her laptop and opened a search engine. Marcus grocery store worker, Chicago. Nothing. She frowned. Of course. Why would there be? Claire picked up her phone and called her assistant. "Find out about the young man working at Freshmart on Eastwood Avenue. Name's Marcus. I don't want to scare him or interfere in his life. I just want to know more." 2 days later, Claire and Emma returned to Freshmart. This time, Claire didn't wait in the car. She wanted to see Marcus again, to thank him properly. Emma tugged her mother's hand excitedly. "Do you think Marcus will remember me?" Claire smiled. "Sweetheart, I think he'll remember you forever." They found him near the produce section, restocking apples. He was wearing the same green apron and that warm smile Emma couldn't stop talking about. When Emma spotted him, she let go of Claire's hand and ran toward him. "Marcus!" He turned, surprised, and then his face lit up. "Well, if it isn't my favorite little shopper, how's my brave girl?" Nina beamed. "I'm good. Mommy's here too." Claire approached, her designer heels clicking softly against the polished floor. "Hello, Marcus." Marcus stood quickly, wiping his hands on his apron. "Ma'am." It's nice to meet you. I believe I owe you a proper thank you, Claire said, her voice warm. You were very kind to my daughter. The other day. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. It was nothing really. Just helping out. It was everything to her, Claire said firmly. And to me. Claire chatted with Marcus for a few minutes, asking simple questions about his work and life. Do you enjoy working here? She asked gently. It's honest work, Marcus replied carefully. I'm grateful for it. He didn't mention the long hours, the meager pay, or how he often skipped meals to keep his sister's dreams alive. But Claire noticed the faint lines of exhaustion around his eyes. She noticed the way he deflected questions about himself and steered the conversation back to Emma. Here was a man carrying burdens he didn't want others to see, and yet he still chose kindness, she thought. Before leaving, Claire surprised Marcus with an invitation. Would you and your sister join us for dinner tomorrow night? Marcus blinked. Dinner? With you? Yes, Claire said simply. As a thank you. Marcus hesitated. He didn't want charity. But Jasmine had always dreamed of seeing how the other half lived. I'll ask my sister, he said finally. We'd be honored, Claire said softly. And Marcus, thank you again. Marcus straightened the collar of his only dress shirt, a crisp white one Jasmine had ironed to perfection earlier that evening. It wasn't new, but it was clean and neat. He stared at himself in the cracked bathroom mirror, tugging at the sleeves nervously. You look fine, Marcus, Jasmine said with a grin, peeking into the bathroom. Stop fussing. I don't want to embarrass you. You could never embarrass me, Jasmine said firmly. Besides, this is just dinner. You helped that lady's daughter. That doesn't mean she's expecting anything else. Marcus smiled faintly, though his stomach churned. Claire Reynolds seemed kind and gracious at the store, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he didn't belong in her world. Their cab pulled up in front of a sprawling mansion on the edge of town. The house was lit like something out of a movie, tall windows glowing warm against the evening sky, manicured gardens lining the driveway, and luxury cars parked out front. Jasmine's jaw dropped. Marcus, this place is huge. He swallowed hard. Yeah, let's try not to knock over any vases, okay? The front door opened, and Claire appeared, wearing an elegant but simple dress. Emma bounded out beside her, squealing with delight. Marcus, Jasmine, you came. Claire smiled warmly. Welcome, we're so glad you're here. Inside, the mansion was even more breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, and the aroma of roasted vegetables and fresh bread filled the air. Yet Claire had chosen to keep the dinner casual, seating them at a cozy round table in the kitchen rather than the formal dining room. Over the meal, Jasmine chatted happily with Emma, their laughter filling the room. Marcus answered Claire's questions politely, though he kept his stories brief. You're raising your sister on your own? Claire asked softly. Yes, ma'am, Marcus replied. Our parents passed a few years ago. I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. Jasmine's a bright kid. She wants to be a nurse. That's impressive, Claire said gently. You must be proud of her. I am, Marcus said, his voice steady. She deserves every chance at a good life. Claire nodded, her heart swelling. This man is remarkable, she thought. Selfless, humble, and completely unaware of his own strength. After dessert, Claire cleared her throat and looked directly at Marcus. There's something I need to say, she began. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Ma'am, if this is about what happened at the store, it's about far more than that, Claire interrupted softly. Marcus, when you helped my daughter, you didn't know who I was. You didn't know what I could offer you. Yet you stepped up without hesitation, without asking for anything in return. She stood and walked to a nearby side table, returning with a sealed envelope. This isn't charity, she continued. It's recognition of your heart. Inside this envelope is a scholarship fund for Jasmine. It will cover her education and living expenses, so she can pursue her nursing dream without worry. Marcus froze. I can't accept. You can, Claire said firmly. And there's more. I own a chain of retail stores. I'd like to offer you a managerial position at one of them. Full benefits, a livable salary, and room to grow. Marcus blinked, his throat tight. Why? Would you? Because people like you deserve opportunities, Claire said. You changed my daughter's world that day. Let me change yours. Tears welled in Jasmine's eyes. Marcus, this means I can go to nursing school. Marcus's hands trembled as he opened the envelope and saw the scholarship confirmation. He looked up at Claire, his voice cracking. I don't even know how to thank you. You already did, Claire said gently. The day you showed kindness to a little girl in a pink raincoat. Emma jumped up and hugged Marcus tightly. You're like a superhero. For the first time in years, Marcus allowed himself to cry. Not from sadness, but from relief, gratitude, and the overwhelming sense that maybe, just maybe, life was finally giving him and Jasmine a chance. Months later, Marcus stood proudly in his crisp new work uniform, managing a busy store with confidence and grace. Jasmine had started nursing school, her eyes bright with hope for the future. Claire and Marcus's family stayed in touch. Emma adored Jasmine like a big sister, and Clara often reminded Marcus, your kindness started all of this. One evening, as Marcus walked home from work, he looked up at the stars and whispered, it only takes one small act of kindness to change a life. I never imagined it would change mine. And for the first time in a long time, he smiled not out of politeness, but from deep within his heart.
One kind act, one changed life. Share this story if it touched your heart, and remember, you can be someone's miracle too.